Awesome. Thanks everyone for
Hey,
joining. Hey Leah, how are you?
how's it going? I'm good. How's the
It's
connection for
going
you?
good. It's great. I can hear you. Can you hear me fine?
It's perfect.
Awesome, awesome. It's been kind of a end of the day Friday, so
I know.
um,
A little bit of a
nobody's
rainy
in the office.
Friday.
It's quiet. I
Oh yeah,
know, I know.
I feel
That
you.
time of the year. That time
That
of the
time of the
year.
year.
But I think a lot of people are already in, so we can just jump right in
Yeah,
and get started.
let's do it.
Welcome everyone. Yeah, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Kidist Tesfaye here in Ethiopia. We focus on women's reproductive health, overall reproductive health. We actually just launched our company last week on Friday. So for those that joined, both in person and live, thank you so much for joining. We really hope to get the community engaged, stakeholders engaged, the global community to get engaged, as it's a very important topic that we are working on. We're really trying to build self-agency amongst women of reproductive age to really have that encouragement to take ownership over their health and make decisions. So I won't talk too much more about us, and I'm sure you guys have been following, but we're starting this new monthly series that we'll do for a spotlight series where we'll kind of highlight and bring up various people, not only in Ethiopia but abroad, to kind of showcase their organization, their knowledge, and their resources related to reproductive health. So Leah happens to be in Ethiopia in Addis Ababa. Not only is she a good friend of mine, but she's a professional in the space. She's a consultant and coach and has various talents as well. At YeneHealth, we always have the word self uh, before a lot of things. So I want to also give you a chance to self-introduce yourself, Leah, before I say too
Yeah, for
much.
sure.
And we'll jump into it. So Leah, go ahead, and why don't you start with giving us a little background about who you are and what your work is related to sexual and reproductive health and the well-being of women in general, and then we can dive into some questions that I have.
Perfect. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Wonderful Friday afternoon. So as my name is Leah Dejenu. I'm based here in Addis Ababa, and I've been based here for around 5 years now, a little over that actually. And yeah, basically the same typical diaspora homecoming narrative that, that's how even Kitty and I met. We had the plans to come here for a short-term time and then eventually ended up staying here and establishing roots here, and the rest is history. So a little bit of my work history. I'm originally from Canada. I was born and raised there, and then I decided to move back here a while back, and I wanted to kind of get a feel of what the corporate world was like. So I kind of dove right into business development management, and that has kind of opened the doors for me to actually getting into self-development work and capacity building. So even though I thought I wanted to do the corporate business development route, which is still very important to me, and I'm very passionate about it, especially in startups like yours. I think they're incredible. Social entrepreneurship is something that I'm also very passionate about, and I still hold very close to my heart. But I think once COVID happened, I really rerouted my career path and started focusing on coaching and consultancy. So I do a lot of staff capacity trainings, one-on-one coaching for not just career development, but also self-development as well. And it's really important to me because I have seen how it works in my own personal career. And that itself it just took it was kind of, once I started doing that self-work journey, I saw how it helped others as well. So the topic of sexual health and sexual reproductive health specifically, especially in Ethiopia, really close to my heart, just because I think these kind of services deserve to be there. And Ethiopian women deserve better. African women deserve better. Black women deserve better. And that's always just been my motto. And especially in something that is so important to us, that ties in with our health. and even our physical autonomy, that's kind of never been respected in history until, whether it's generally the patriarchal system or even systemic oppression. So now it's really important to have these kind of spaces and talks and places like YeneHealth, whether it's the co-working space or even just supporting the app. And there's so many other startups and organizations that adhere to that as well. I hope that answers the question.
Awesome.
I went on a
Yeah,
tangent.
that actually, no, I love it. I think that actually answered my second question, which was kind of what drew and inspired you to kind of the work that you do, which you kind of covered a bit. You
Yeah.
know, like you said, you came from Canada, and I mean, just within the fact that coming into Ethiopia, in a place where it's more difficult to access resources, professionals, products, you know, it's a quite a different environment. So even within that, I know you mentioned a little bit about just that even made you more interested to kind of push that and give other women opportunities. So I think that's great to hear. To kind of add, you know, add to that, I mean, with your personal experience, I think what's great about you is, you know, you have an understanding of both the startup ecosystem as
Yeah.
well as the women's health ecosystem and the challenges that it comes with. So, you know, from your personal experience as well as professional experience helping other women, what are those challenges that you say are quite like the most difficult obstacles that women face in that space from your time here?
So I would definitely say in the ecosystem, I would say solidarity has been one of the challenges. And because sometimes whenever people think, whether it's organizations like or things that are targeted towards sexual reproductive health, especially women's reproductive health, they think it's the women's only fight. And and so sometimes the support can just be super, you know, even for instance, sexual reproductive health. Sorry, did I cut out for a little bit?
A little bit, yeah. Do you want to
Okay.
just repeat that last?
For sure. So I was saying, having worked with even, I had the privilege to coach an NGO that also focuses on sexual and reproductive health, and just even the level of policy work that they have to do and deal with even people opposing accessible contraceptive or people who are opposing their line of mission and vision. And it is just like, these are basic necessities. And the fact that even the stigma behind sexual reproductive health is as if we're promoting for people to go have sex or whatever that is. It's just destigmatizing that is one of the biggest things to tackle. And I would say definitely one of the biggest hurdles. Just even when it comes down to products, certain products and having certain products accessible, just even the shame surrounded by it is something that I would say is an obstacle. But definitely, I would say more male solidarity as well. Men have privilege, whether we like it or not, in this society. And sometimes they kind of need to be the vehicles for that too, or help us with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, to that point, I think what's great, that's something that we also kind of thought about when we were doing our research. And, you know, half of our team is actually male, you know, public health professionals, reproductive health professionals, which really make us feel like we're getting all perspectives. So I think that's an important point. And the other point about policy advocacy, I mean, I think that's also one of the biggest challenges, even as a business, to try to kind of change and address these challenges is you really have to have that support up there from the policy perspective and making sure there's frameworks that will allow you to do things and allow you to give women access. I mean, just to give an example, one of the products that we first wanted to start with was a self-injectable contraceptive. So it's a 3-month birth control pill or a birth control for women, the depot shot that women can self-inject. And because there was no regulatory framework for that in Ethiopia, we weren't able to bring that in and kind of introduce that. So I think, you know, that will be also a big part of our work, and we would love to kind of engage with you on that too and see how we can create solidarity amongst organizations and individuals that are in that space. So yeah, so I think that was great. You know, our mission at YeneHealth ultimately is to amplify, again, the term her health, her choice. And our motto as well is in line with that. It's care women deserve. as a professional, as a coach, from your perspective again, I would love to hear kind of, why do you think it's important that women are encouraged to have that self-agency and make their decisions themselves and learn and be the powerhouse for themselves? Why is that so important?
It's as simple as, because you really, somebody else shouldn't do it for you, because that gives someone else the qualms to also have agency over your body. Not just your sexual reproductive health, but just everything about, mananatachin. Like, that is so important. That's something intimate. And I think that doesn't, I think it's really important to be really aware of not just our physical anatomy, but even what's going on, being in tune with our bodies as well. So I think really, truly, that is whether, I know it sounds so cliche, but it's, my body, my choice. And I know that term has been weaponized so many ways as well, and that has its own meaning, but it's true. It is our bodies and our choice, and what we choose to do with it, and also how we choose to nourish it, how we choose to heal it, whether we choose to bring kids into this world or not, whether we choose to use menstrual cups or we choose to use pads. That is all up to us. It is not up to somebody else, because in the end, everybody has a subjective level of what serves them and what suits them. There is no right or wrong way. As long as people have agency over themselves, you have happier people and a happier society.
No, absolutely. Thank you for that. So, I mean, you talked a little bit about your organization. I know sometimes you also serve as an independent coach for women on an individual basis, but then also work with top NGOs and other stakeholders to kind of bring this mission to life. So tell us a little bit about kind of like the work that you've actually done. Maybe give us a specific example of a training or a workshop that you've done, or experience that you had that you thought was very moving and impactful.
So a lot of my work as a coach is definitely getting into the company, understanding the company culture or organizational culture. And for me personally, I tend to align myself with companies that align with also my values. And not saying that other people don't, it's not at the expense of others. But for instance, I had the privilege to work with Noble Cup, which was wonderful. And I got to coach them for a month and do trainings. And whether it started with soft skills, it also dove into even individuals that helped that organization run. And also things like the societal pressures, or even just the legality of how to register this and that. A lot of things came up, and I really learned a lot, and what it takes to be a pioneer, period. Hello, did it freeze?
We lost you there. Yep, just a little bit.
What was the last thing I said?
You said what it meant to be, and then I think that's where I lost you at least.
Okay, so yeah, I think for me, having worked with them, I learned a lot on what it pioneer and tackling issues like period poverty. And I would say they're really an incredible organization. But just like you mentioned, there are those little obstacles that they have to go through. So even just supporting that group and supporting that that organization to at least even ease up on their operations and feel like they can go smoothly and keep their moods up and keep their vibes high, I think that was enough for me to also be there and to support them in any way. And the same goes for YeneHealth. So YeneHealth is like I mentioned, it was an organization that was I think it's been over 30 years since they've been active here in Ethiopia. And I coached them for a year. And like I mentioned, there were so many admin/policy things that were kind of threatening the organization. So I think working with that organization as well, and seeing how it was kind of wonderful to also see a bunch of men also working in that organization that really banked for reproductive health. It was really refreshing to see that. So definitely, and seeing how many women that they've reached within the years, which I think it was over 200,000 women that have received, I think, comprehensive education on reproductive health. So
That's awesome.
Health. Yeah, and even contraceptive and doctors and accessibility, all those resources. I think it was the similar statistic, but
Definitely.
it was Yeah, they're really amazing. So I really feel privileged to even work closely with a lot of the teams there.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that's
Yeah.
incredible work that has huge impact for those receiving those trainings. So also, I'm just kind of going through the comments. If anybody has questions as well, please drop them in comments. We also take time to answer it. We do keep these spotlights short, 30 minutes, short and sweet, but also very meaningful. So we have about 10 minutes left, so I'll kind of have a couple last questions, but then you guys can also chime in. I mean, just kind of again add to your last comment that you mentioned about your work. I mean, what types of services and resources can women reach out to you about? I mean, we are building a great community of women that will be serving as well. We have a digital application that we that will deploy to expand the access for a lot of women. How do you think that we can play a role in improving access to you? What are things that right now women that are listening or other women in our networks that that we can share with to say you are here, you're in this space, you're available, and what does that look like? Yeah, and how can they reach you as well?
Definitely. I think a lot of the work that I do, like I said, wellness is a very key, I know it's a very broad term, but sexual wellness also ties into that. And I do want to mention that I am actively trying to work on getting my certification in sexual health and wellness. So that,
Awesome.
and yeah, because I think it came from the years of me coaching and things like that coming up, whether it's sexual violence, whether it's sexual health rights. There's just so many elements of that kind of continuously kept coming up that I felt like I had to address and feel like I can tackle that and I do have capacity for and I'm well informed about. Either way, I definitely, on a wellness standpoint, I 100% provide my services. And then also, a lot of the key areas that I focus on is self-awareness, emotional intelligence. I focus a lot more on active communication, active listening, just because generally speaking, I think those are also things that keep not just women, but just in general, people going. And I think having those basic skills as well, and even learning to facilitate a safe environment. I think a lot of the trainings that I do, especially even with management, is helping people adjust and build a safe environment so that they actively listen to whatever issue might be coming up. And they do have enough capacity to do so. So that is where I tend to focus on.
That's awesome. Incredible. I can't wait till you're certified. And then, that's like I mean, I haven't heard of that many um, types of actual certified professionals here. So I think that within itself is just paving the way for so much more growth within the healthcare ecosystem. So that's amazing. Again, we have about 10 minutes. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I do kind of want to add, I wanted to go back to your question when you said what kind of inspired me to do the line of work, specifically in the area of sexual health. There is a huge cultural element that I want to discuss, just because
Definitely.
I think just even how on a personal level and how we grew up, of course, every household is different. I've heard households that had moms ready with, pads and this and that, just ready for their daughters to like guide them through and so on and so forth. And I did have that to an extent, but I think when I realized I was still misinformed. It was, and I just even I thought I was gonna bleed like 28 days straight when I got my period. So like that alone was just like, what is happening to my body? And I think that's so important. Teaching young girls and young, just people in general about their physical autonomy and the importance of that. So that experience for me really inspired me to even dive into that because I realized I'm like, no one's really gonna help me. So at 15 years old, I just kind of took the educational route and enrolled myself, whether it was in sex ed or did more of the medical anatomy approach to what's happening to my body. And slowly it just grew, it grew, it grew. And then I just learned from even my group dynamic or even people who I'm close with. I'm always that friend that's like, okay, this is happening. So like, like, what should I do? Or so naturally for me, I think women's health is so important, especially sexual health. So I still want to keep fostering that environment and making that service accessible for others as well.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. I think, even with us at YeneHealth, we're definitely trying to start from at a young age. Like you said, awareness is so important. I mean, that's where everything starts, right? You learn about walking before you get up and start walking. You learn about reading before you pick up a book. So I think it's so important to really understand what different terms mean, what products are available. And we hope that through we have special kits designed for young girls and young boys as well as adults, to really learn about some of these topics that are stigma filled. And again, that's an area that we definitely can collaborate on as well. There's a question here that says, is YeneHealth global across Africa or only specific to Ethiopia? So currently we're only specific to Ethiopia. We do have a plan to expand across Africa and then globally after that. But, we are an early stage startup. You can't be, your vision definitely should be like up there, and we're not going to get there overnight, but we definitely see ourselves being a global organization that works on. Go ahead.
I was going to say, you guys do also have an excellent network of women, both national and diaspora women, that are also supporting and who I think work abroad as well. So
yes,
there is
we do
that potential for you guys.
No, definitely. I mean, there's just so many people. I feel like even for us, as a small organization, there's so many people like yourself that are kind of really creating impact within their own silos and their own kind of space. And our biggest thing is to kind of nurture this ecosystem and, create connections, create synergy, and build on that. There's 27 million women of reproductive age in Ethiopia, which is a massive market that needs to be served, through education, through awareness, through access to products, and so on. And that's not a group of people that only one organization can serve. So this is why it's really important for all of us to really work together and help each other in achieving that larger goal. There doesn't seem to be any other questions. I want to kind of just give you the last 5 minutes to some parts of it to kind of like say anything else you want to add, but also there's like kind of a last message that you or your organization would like to leave us off with, both as YeneHealth, but also just for anyone listening, tips, advice about approaching such issues.
I think in the area of sexual health, I think both men and women, listen to your gut. If something is off, listen to your gut. I think that's one of the things I will say, despite the shame, despite the stigma, because of course, I understand. Sometimes, especially in Ethiopia, hospitals might not be most welcoming. There might be a little bit of stigma. You might be ashamed a little bit of your body or why you're there. Pharmacies might, look at you some type of way or whatever it might be. But I will say 100%, people need to be in tune with their bodies. And that's where active mindfulness comes into play as well. Be really mindful and intentional with, like what's going on. And even though there is all these shames and stigma surrounded by sexual reproductive health, in the end, you are a top priority. So really self-advocacy is also something I really do, I do push for, especially in my coaching and line of work. And that also can intersect a lot with sexual health, whether it's, advocating for yourself, advocating for contraceptive, advocating for your partners to also engage in safe sex. I think there is, definitely. I want people to also have their agency and feel empowered to speak up, especially when it comes down to topics like this.
Yeah, definitely. That's great. I think, we have a few minutes and I'm just kind of thinking out loud, but I feel like always when you're kind of trying to solve such a massive issue and problem in Ethiopia, especially, it's always easy for us to say, oh, this is wrong, or this is an issue, or they're not doing this right. So I'd love to kind of hear from your perspective on, on the brighter side. What are things that you see, Ethiopia doing well in, progressing in, both from a policy level government positioning, but also from private sector? What are great things that are going on that we should hear about, that we should know about? That's great, great to be part of.
Yeah, definitely. I will say, like, going back to a lot of my work with startups, there's so many other health startups as well, and even just like yourself as well. You're doing a lot of work and groundwork and laying down the foundation, especially when it comes to information, accessibility. Like, there's so many areas that you do cover. I'm not saying this because I'm biased. It's very true.
Thank you.
No, true. But I think seeing the level of collaborative work that also the different ministries are willing to do, and just even being open for that discussion and open for these kind of companies to exist is phenomenal. And even for instance, like I remember I was doing my research for Engender Health. It's been a while since I worked with them, but I found out EULA funded them, and EULA is the Ethiopian Women's Law Association, or yeah, I don't know the exact acronym, but they've been around for so long, and even they do so much pro bono work and providing legal work against domestic violence, sexual violence cases. So there has been so many phenomenal women that have pioneered in this and are also supporting pre-existing and currently existing organizations like yourselves. And it's really hopeful it's just, even, I think from a personal perspective, understanding even how the legal system works when it comes to matters like sexual violence or so on and so forth, seeing how it actually, I wouldn't say, we still have a lot of time to get there, but there are certain people even in that system that are quite supportive that do tend to give you faith.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Well, we are at time. It was such a great discussion with you, Leah. Thank you so much for spending your time with us. For everybody that joined as well, thank you so much for joining for our first spotlight of the month. We will do these every last Friday of each month, where we'll kind of, again, give an individual or organization a spotlight to talk about their organization, what they do, and their relevance to women's health. Make sure that you follow our page as well as Leah's page. You can reach out to Leah, and if you have any questions or want to kind of get coaching or any services through her, we'll also be working with her on various things in the near future. And then, yeah, tune in for our next spotlight. We'll be posting them as they come. And if you're also interested in kind of doing this 30-minute session with us, reach out to us, inbox us, and our marketing team will schedule that, and we can have you on one of our sessions, hopefully. So thanks for tuning in, everyone. And thanks, Leah, again. And have a good weekend wherever you are. Have a good evening and have a good day if you're abroad as well.
Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Bye.
Bye, guys. Bye. Bye. Bye, Leah.